Welcome to the F1 Time Portal. Today we're sharing our POV on the 2026 Melbourne Grand Prix, the season opener. I'm your host, Luigi.
And I'm your other host, Rosa. So let's go. And welcome, Andrew.
Hi, Rosa. Hi, Luigi. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, and I just
for
have
the
to
first
say,
race of the year.
yes, it is. I also have to say thanks for filling in for me last year, that back end of last year. I heard you got quite a following, so you're back. You're back by popular demand.
Riding on your coattails, I think.
Anyway, yes, let's get started on the season opener.
Yeah, I've got an ambition, Rosa, this to be the first Melbourne race review released worldwide. So we're going to record this. I'll edit it straight after, and you publish it straight after that.
Yep,
So let's see how we go. So this is a pretty interesting. So this is a little bit different to a normal, as those of you that listen to the POV episodes where we do these, right? They're more race commentaries and race reviews because we're not here recapping the race because we assume you've watched the race with us. And FYI, we're recording this right after the race. So for those that may remember, Andrew and I did a review of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and then the McLarens got disqualified. So keep in mind, we don't know if anyone's been disqualified because we're recording this right after. So because it's the first race of the season and major regulation changes, I thought we'd just have a pre-qualifying practice talk about our observations. And because it was the Australian Grand Prix, many of us watched the practice sessions in our daytime, which is a lovely luxury, I guess. So what any thoughts you guys had about, the pre-race, pre-qualifying stuff?
Do you want me to go first, Andrew, or do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Well, I have to say that pre-race, pre-weekend, I was really looking forward to the new regulations. I was really looking forward to the cars being more competitive, being able to race closer together, there being more overtaking. But the closer we got to the season start, the more anxious I was getting that these new regulations had gone a bit too far and that the whole battery deployment part of the engine was going to cause some problems. So I went into practice, pretty negative, I guess.
But wait, Ferrari, there were rumours that Ferrari had great start systems. So surely you had a little bit of hope there, right?
As you and Andrew keep telling me, Ferrari's the champions of the world pre-season.
Yeah.
So quite regularly, yep.
So I also took that with a grain of salt. And then the whole start fiasco during Bahrain practice, that was also not good to see. Anyway, so yes, I sort of went in expecting it to sort of be a bit of a difficult start to the year.
Yeah, let's see what Andrew's got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I probably wasn't as negative as that. I probably have more of an open mind as to what it might look like. Obviously I'm still trying to get my head around how the cars work and the batteries and the overtake and the wings that open. And obviously during the race, I think that became more evident as to how
I think the drivers are still trying to figure out how it works too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they were working it out during the race.
Practice and qualifying. It was still hard to sort of get your head around that. And certainly there's things that you're not used to being a viewer of Formula One for 40 years to have the drivers slowing right down before the start line and then going full gas. It just was a bit weird, but I think it'll take a few races to get used to it.
I think this track also, sorry, Luigi, just before we get on to you, I think this track also is probably one of the more challenging ones with such long straights and high speed straights. I think from what I heard pre-race that this was going to be really difficult for that whole battery deployment and keeping top speed throughout the entire track. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see whether certain tracks have better suited to this type of formula than others.
Yeah. And I've got nothing else to add. I'd be repeating what you guys said, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, how about you tell
my
us
initial
your
feelings,
practice?
I don't like it.
Yeah. You're
I
like
didn't.
Max.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like it generally, and I'm worried, but I'm reserving judgment for a few races, I guess. But yeah, I guess I'll go straight to my comments about free practice. I just saw there'll list lots of offs, and the drivers were clearly having a lot of trouble with these cars,
Mm,
and it was very tricky for them. I mean, it was across the board. If they weren't having big offs, they were having little offs, and in a way, there's something good about that. But the reason for it is not good because we want the
yeah.
driver to be more input than the car. We know historically, people that have been around Formula One for a long time say it's traditionally been 80% the car, 20% the driver. We want it to be more the driver. It is more the driver, but not for the reasons we thought. It's
Yes.
because it's so freaking complicated. The drivers are just trying to relearn how to drive these go slow to go fast cars, essentially. So, yeah, that was the only comment I had about free practice.
But that breakup, Louis, of 80-20, that's really been more in the modern era. I think back in the 60s, 70s, it was the other way around.
Totally. Yeah, totally the other way around.
Even the 80s, probably it was the other way around. It really wasn't until the 90s and 2000s that it became more car than driver, I think.
Yeah, you know what? A good way of summing that up is in the olden days, like the 60s and 70s, and as you know, Rosa, we've recently recorded those, and Andrew, you've been in many of those episodes. We have the surprise winner every now and then, right? In this era, because it's so much more the car than the driver, we have the surprise podium.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not really going to get the surprise winner anymore, or not.
No.
There has to be extraordinary circumstances for that to happen.
Yeah, and I think the drivers just struggled with, and we'll get to obviously the race later, but just with the power deployment, you know, and I think, you know, just coming in at weird times and different amounts of power that they're not used to. So, you know, I think there's probably an art to driving these cars that, you know, they're the best drivers in the world, so they'll pick it up pretty quickly, but yeah, it's just weird being a spectator and just trying to get your head around it.
Well, I was just about to say, it's one thing being a spectator on the stands, but you're almost a spectator in the car. Like that's the scary bit about it. Like that, you know, the Antonelli off and even the Piastri off. I don't think they did anything wrong. I just don't. And even the Verstappen accident during qualifying, he's like, well, it just locked up on me. It was just too much power, or it flicked out, or whatever. I think, like, as a driver, that must cause you to pause a little bit, thinking I could be slammed up against the wall at any time without any control.
Well, I think the Verstappen one was a little bit different, wasn't it? Like he was under braking and the thing just locked up.
And the thing locked up.
Whereas the Antonelli and Piastri were both sort of under acceleration.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I think you've hit on a very key point, which is too big for this POV episode. But how do you define? You said these are the best drivers in the world, but we've seen best drivers when they get a car they don't like, they go from being great to midfield non. You know, and we've seen like a good example is we've seen Ricciardo. Look at Ricciardo, Vettel. You put them in the car they didn't like, and they're suddenly not that great anymore. So it's like, what's the definition of a great driver? Is it a driver that can adapt, or is it someone that's brutally fast? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you've seen that with Hamilton. Probably, you know, I think he's straight away this weekend. He's been a lot more competitive than he was last year.
Well, the ground effect, he hated
the ground effect era.
Yeah,
and even the Red Bulls. You know, the Hadjar was closer to Verstappen. So you know, I think there's different drivers, and obviously also different constructors that have built cars for, you know, Mercedes are loving this, obviously, because they hated the ground effect era. So, it's just a different era again.
Yeah, well, shall we move on? It is an interesting topic, and I think we're going to come back to this as the season progresses, as we see what this year is being called the development race year. Because now it's a matter of, can the others catch Mercedes? Have Mercedes got more development up their sleeve? You know what I mean? We don't know yet. It's early. And like Rosa said, Melbourne's always been an outlier track. So we don't know if Mercedes are going to dominate. We don't really know, but it's looking damn likely. Like, you know, as we know in qualifying, we can go to qualifying.
Yeah, good segue. Yeah.
Russell got pole by like a million years, so to speak.
I know, that was so disappointing. And also, the qualifying speed was like 4 seconds slower than the 2025 qualifying time.
Yeah.
So, in an effort to make the cars more competitive, they've had to slow them down quite a bit, which, I think one of you's also already mentioned. It's not great to see Formula One cars slowing down at the end of a straight.
And it was really obvious in the qualifying. It wasn't so obvious in the
Yes.
race, but in the
No.
qualifying,
Yes.
it was confronting actually.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the regulations are, obviously without the ground effects, the cars don't have, the same grip they had for cornering speed,
no.
but they are a
Yep.
lot faster in a straight line if they can deploy all of their battery.
I mean, my concern, Andrew, is that the qualifying times were they were so what's the word? They were so far apart from each other. And it might just be because it's the first race of the season and everyone's still trying to get used to the setups and the deployment thing. But I don't see the point of making the cars more drivable if all the cars are going to be 3 or 5 seconds away from each other. And then you're not going to get the overtaking and the competitiveness anymore. But like I said, it's just the first race of the season. So I think it's a bit too early to make that call.
And I'm going to disagree with you, Rosa, because if you take, generally what they do when they do Olympic voting for ice skating, they take away the top score and they take away the lowest score. If you take away Mercedes and you take away Cadillac, if you take Mercedes and Cadillac out, it was pretty tight. It was pretty tight otherwise.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But we didn't see competitive racing during the race.
Well, we'll get to the race. We're talking qualifying.
But I think it's similar to every change of regulations, though, isn't it? So, back in 2014, Mercedes had a huge gap over everyone else.
Yeah.
And again, I think with the ground effect era, Red Bull, started very strong. It was Red Bull and Ferrari. So, these things happen when they change regulations.
Yeah.
It's up to everyone else to catch up.
I'd probably be happier if it was Ferrari with the biggest gap to the rest of the field.
Yeah, that's why she's being antsy.
Hey, look, I think they overperformed based on, what we were expecting.
Andrew, I found qualifying very disappointing. I actually thought, that there would be some closer. I was disappointed for Verstappen to crash out so early. I was really hoping he'd, put that competitive edge up there. Norris and Piastri were nowhere. Like McLaren's a step behind. And even Ferrari, they went missing in Q2, like totally missing.
Yeah.
And they just didn't take that next step to be able to then really compete for pole in Q3. So I found it very disappointing.
Okay. And what about you? Any comments about qualifying? I've got a few comments, but you go first, Andrew.
Oh, look, Antonelli was obviously very fortunate to make it in the first place. And, there was a bit of a gap to Russell, but you can understand that given that the car probably wasn't quite at its optimum. Hadjar was really good, qualifying third. I think Lindblad, where'd he finish, eighth or ninth in his first? But,
he
I think
qualified
it was the same.
Fifth or something, didn't he? Fifth or sixth?
Old teams really, the top. Well, Mercedes were obviously clear, and then the other three big teams, and then everyone else. So Audis were pretty fast. Alonso nearly made it through to Q3, which was a surprise. So I think in the first practice they were 29 seconds behind, so they got to within 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I was of the view that I'm just looking at where Lindblad actually qualified.
I think he was fifth or sixth, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was a little bit. He was higher in the Q2 than Q3, but he only. I think he only did one run. I'm struggling to find it quickly while talking. And maybe you can look it up, Rosa.
Talk. We'll look it up.
Yeah, you look it up. Yeah, so the thing I was just going to say was that I think Red Bull family, as in Racing Bull Red Bull, really, I think they've got two young stars on their hands. I think Hadjar is a genuine star. of the future. And I think Lindblad is as well. So look at the future of that team. Like, they've got good insurance to offset Max. You know what I mean? Because
Ninth.
those,
Lindblad qualified ninth.
yeah, but he was better in Q2. So I think
He
it was because they didn't have the
yeah.
tyres. But the key thing I wanted to flag is that with Hadjar getting up to third, you'd have to assume that if Max didn't have that car issue in Q1, he probably would have been third, but Hadjar then would have been fourth. That's remarkable for Red Bull.
It is.
So that just shows how good that Hadjar is and how good Lindblad is. And Lindblad beating Lawson. Okay, Lawson out-qualified him, but Lindblad was ahead of Lawson all the way
all
except
weekend.
Q3.
Yeah,
except Q3. So that was the only thing I was really going to make about because we all sort of expected Mercedes to be up there, and they were. And Antonelli dodged a bullet, obviously, because of the red flag that Max brought out for him. So that's all I had to say about qualifying. And McLaren's a bit nowhere. The interesting thing is, before the race, George Russell was quoted as out saying, as they usually do, you're in the dominant car, all that sort of routine, 0.8 ahead of the next placed non-Mercedes. And he made a comment of saying, well, look at the McLaren. They're the defending champions. They've got the same engine and they're 0.8 behind. It's not just an engine thing. It's more than the engine. But then you've got the McLaren people saying, but you've got 5 more months extra time with that engine, designing the car fully around it. We only get the engine at the last minute, so to speak. So, it's interesting. The games are already being played like that.
Yeah, and that's sort of been the topic of conversation a little bit prior to, the Mercedes, you're right, have had that 5 or 6 months understanding the engines and the nuances. So it's going to take a bit of time for those Mercedes teams to actually catch up on the engine front anyway.
But in 2014, it wasn't like this. In 2014, Mercedes were dominant like this, but slotted behind them was, I can't remember all the teams, but Williams was definitely had a Mercedes engine. And they were like, remember Bottas and, was it Massa was his teammate? They were like third and fourth. They were getting podiums left, right, and center. All the Mercedes engined teams were right up there. This has definitely not happened this time. So, I think it's because of the complexity. It's too much complexity. That's why, perhaps.
Yeah. And is there still a decision coming on the Mercedes? I mean, the FIA have cleared it as legal and in line with the rules, but aren't they reviewing it at the mid-season break or something? Is that still happening?
Heard about it. I've heard a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not sure about where that's at in terms of the decision process, but.
Yeah. Oh, and can I mention something before we get into the race? This is a rumor I heard from someone who so I haven't read it anywhere at all. But did you hear something that because of we're recording this, obviously, 8th of March, 2026, and because there's a conflict in the Middle East, unfortunately, I heard that they were thinking of repeating the race as a pseudo of the Middle Eastern races. Did you hear anything about that?
I've heard that as speculation, but I think there's also some logistical issues with that, having to keep the circuit in place for another 3 or 4 weeks. Because I also heard they're going to do Suzuka back-to-back 2 races in a row, because obviously that's the last race before the Middle East.
Yeah.
I think the most likely thing is they'll just cancel those 2.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 24 races this year, so they've got plenty of time to
put another race in later in the year, because obviously they go back to the Middle East at the end of the year, so they might be able to push one in at that point.
Yeah. Okay, well, shall we get to this race? So, the Aussie curse? Or the Aussie curse, let's talk about that.
Oh, I was going to skip that. Yes, the Aussie curse. What? He's like Charles Leclerc in Monaco is turning out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very disappointing. You could almost feel the crowd just be disappointed.
Well, the amount of the crowd that had the yellow and green caps on.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, pretty much 80% of the crowd were wearing orange McLaren gear. So it was a huge, huge following for the Piastri. And he actually was pretty fast during. I think he finished fastest in P2, and he seemed to be quite a way ahead of Norris.
Yes.
just in terms of speed.
And when you think about, I mean, we're jumping around a little bit, but we know that Norris finished, my app's not
Fifth?
working.
Fifth, held off.
But it
No,
was,
he held off Verstappen, so he finished fifth. Yep.
yeah, but
Fifth.
he was like 35 seconds behind. I don't think Piastri would have been that far behind. You know what I mean?
No.
If he
Yeah.
didn't have that, the Aussie curse hit him. So
Yeah.
I like it. None of us are
I like
acknowledging
how-
that it could be his own. None of us are acknowledging it's his own fault, but you know.
No. And look, I wasn't watching the Sky telecast, so I didn't hear him talk to the media there. Did he say what it was? Did he say? I thought I didn't hear it.
any interviews with him at all.
No.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what it was. But when I read the article, they said it was a battery deployment issue. So
So it was like the Max thing, I suspect, you know?
I think Anthony Davidson was doing some analysis on Sky.
Right.
And he was sort of suggesting that it might have been a power type thing, even from when he first went out. And just feeding in the power was coming in at different levels.
Yeah. I mean, it was a formation lap, you know, so the power wasn't full blast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a concern. But anyway, yes.
But you raise an interesting point, though, Luigi, about home drivers winning their races. Because it took Ayrton Senna a long time to win in Brazil.
Yeah, I think it was 91 or
the
something.
Aussie curse.
Yeah,
I reckon Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton's probably the one that, you know, he's won. How many times has he won at Silverstone? But
heaps.
Quite a few of the others. Yeah, it's a struggle, I think.
It's funny with you mentioned the Senna, because I think when Senna finally won the Brazilian Grand Prix, I think it was 91. Prost had won the previous three, his arch rival. So
and Senna had to nurse his car home in fifth gear, I reckon. And he was exhausted at the end of it. But anyway.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, Rosa.
Are we getting to the start?
Let's talk about the start. And then Rosa can leave the podcast.
Yeah, and then I'm out. That's it. No, I also don't want to talk about the first safety car period either.
Oh.
Yeah, but let's talk about the start. Come on.
The start was awesome. That was really good. I mean, Charles Leclerc came from fourth to first. Russell didn't have a great start. He just sort of had a bit too much wheel spin.
Yeah.
But that Ferrari just off the line and zippy and just went through the traffic amazingly and just ended up, before the first corner, I think he took the lead.
Yeah, yeah.
That was and look, that was part of the hype that we heard before the season about their starts and that they had good starts. But again, I was just going, okay, but under race conditions, are you going to be able to perform? And they did. Yeah. And it was, and even Hamilton eventually with his old man reflexes ended up getting up there. But that was a superb start, I thought.
It was very impressive. And I also was acknowledging Lindblad. He went up to fourth. Now, he was behind Lawson. I was like, I think I blinked, right? And Lindblad was fourth. And I was like, where's Lawson? He was like 16th, 17th. You know, like the opposite world of starts.
Yes.
So it just reinforced how Lindblad is a real star of the future. Even though it's only one race, but he's held his mind. And yes, he slipped back as you'd expect with that car. But you know, he didn't hand it over to everyone. He had to be fought clearly and even fought Max a little too.
Yeah,
so
I was expecting a bit of carnage at the start. But I think with Ferrari, it was more the second phase of their start that was really good. You know, they didn't actually get off the line really fast, but they probably that next 200 or 300 meters.
And
the other thing that I noticed was there was hardly any time between the 5 lights going on and the start. It was just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
They didn't hold them for very long.
They didn't hold them at all.
They told us they'd hold it for ages so they could rev. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know who was pressing the button, but I think it's all electronic anyway. But
it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. One thing I remember George said afterwards, after the race, that he said we both, as in him and Antonelli, he said they both started with 0 battery.
Yes, I did hear that Antonelli had 0 battery. Yes.
And so did George. So And they didn't show the start very well for us that watched the Sky TV broadcast. They did show the top-down view after eventually, but they showed us front on, and the front on was really hard to appreciate the awesomeness of that Ferrari start. But it was pretty cool to see Russell literally moving sideways.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, that was the wheel spin, of course.
That was the wheel spin, yeah.
It really, as soon as you saw that, you go, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's not what you're meant to look like when you start a Formula One race.
You're not meant to move sideways. You're meant to move forwards.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, I thought it was good. And those first laps, if we're moving now to the beyond the start, those first few laps were really exciting. I thought there was some good, like the cars were close together, and there was a lot of overtaking. There was a lot of passing. They could actually follow close behind each other. So, yeah, and those tussles between, I mean, what was it? It was like 4 lead changes in the first 8 laps or something like that.
5. There were 5.
5. There you go.
Yeah. Melbourne's known for people. A number of times we've been to the Melbourne race together many times, Rosa, and separately too. The number of times I've seen no passes all race and have 5 in 8 laps, I was thinking to myself, we just had what seemed like a bit of a pretty crappy qualifying where the cars were slowing down on the straight. And if that's the price we have to pay to get 15 laps of this, I'll pay that price.
Okay,
I'll pay a crappy qualifying for a good race.
Andrew, do you want to take that one?
I think we were fortunate that Ferrari got off the line so well, and Mercedes were trying to fight back, because obviously Mercedes had the faster car, I think. And it was funny because I think even after 3 or 4 laps, George passed Charles, and I was actually thinking he was going to pull away. But
yeah, so did I. Yeah.
The battery and the passing boost or whatever it is, yeah. Yes. No, that's right. Exactly. So
the start basis.
Well,
so
you
they
know,
they can lead the first 10 or 12 laps.
Kill me now.
But that'll be good.
So I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that every week, man. I mean, they overtook each other a couple of times, and there was once where George locked his front wheels as well, and only just recovered to get it back on the track. So, I mean, that to me is good racing. That was George pushing to get the overtaking done, and then pushed a bit too hard. But then we lost. I don't like your fifth. That's good for 15 laps, Louis. It's 58 laps, man.
Well, it's funny that incident when George locked up his wheels, that basically triggered the domino effect. The real domino effect was the VSC, but that was good timing for George because he was obviously going to struggle with those flat-spotted tyres. It was a real proper old school lockup, right?
It was. It was
like the olden days of Formula One.
That's right. Yes,
but that set the scene to enable Mercedes to basically, I wouldn't say they outwitted Ferrari. Ferrari just stuffed up.
Ferrari outwitted themselves,
man.
Yeah,
I know. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I don't know what was their strategy. I don't know. Did they just think there would be more safety cars? Did they think there would be another opportunity and they would have a tyre differential? I don't know. Like if everyone, they've done this before though, Luigi and Andrew. They've done this before. Everyone else stops, they don't.
Yeah.
What are they thinking?
Well, I like the line that I liked when Brundle referred to Hamilton as the Ferrari lead strategist.
But I think, you make a good point. They needed to at least pit one of the cars.
Yes.
We had the same issue last year with McLaren in one of the races where they didn't pit anyone and they should have swapped strategies. You need to cover off your opposition.
It was awkwardly early, and that's what caught Ferrari out because it was lap 12 that VSC came out, and it's a 58 lap race. I can understand. I can sort of. I'm not saying it's 100% stuff up, but it's definitely 70, 80% plus.
Nah,
do you know what I mean?
It's 100%. Everyone else stops. And I know it was early, but it's a if everyone is stopping and you don't stop, you get left behind.
Yeah, especially because George stopped. Because George stopped, then at least one of them had to.
Well, I think Leclerc was in front at the time, so he goes past.
Yes.
George stops. Surely Hamilton follows him in.
Yes.
To cover off.
That's where they stuffed up.
But then they went around another time and that's when Hamilton came on the radio saying
that first safety car did go for quite some time and then they still didn't stop.
Why didn't we stop? They still had another opportunity to come in on the next lap.
That was lap using lap. No, but then lap 20 there was the next opportunity when Bottas. But I'm not sure if they had the opportunity to stop or not.
They didn't.
Because they stopped the entry, right?
Yeah, the pit lane.
Ferrari had no chance. So that was not an opportunity for them. Okay.
No.
It was more the first time when they went around a couple times and they could have stopped the second time around.
They could have.
Even the second time around was too late in a way because everyone else had stopped by then. So it would have minimized the damage, I guess.
They lost 20 seconds when they stopped under normal race conditions.
It was a virtual safety car, so no one's losing. Yeah. No one's bunching the packet up. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. It was a big miss. So I think that
it was massive miss.
It's a massive. No, but big is still handing it to you. But my question is, would Ferrari have won if they pitted? I still don't think it would have given them a certain win. It would have been a battle.
I don't know.
It would have been a battle.
It would have been a great race, though. You would have had George trying to overtake. You would have had them, within. Because at the end they were 10 seconds apart. Yeah. There was nothing left in the race.
This is exactly the VSC benefit.
And Mercedes just had the opportunity. I know they went a long way on the hards, but Melbourne's not a high tire degradation track. So they had the opportunity to just manage.
So Ferrari let themselves down. They let us down. They let the Melbourne public down. They let Italy down. The Pope. They let everyone down.
They let Brundle down too, because Brundle said when they pitted on lap 26 eventually, when there was no safety car, no nothing, Brundle was like he was reflecting, and it says it feels like a mistake. So
good on you, Brundle. It killed the whole race. I think it killed the whole race.
Yeah, it did. Because the race was over. Lap 15, the race was over.
It was over. That's right. Yeah. Max put in a little bit of a cameo performance once again, coming from the back of the field and finishing 6th. Did he get driver of the day?
Yep, he did.
Good.
Okay.
You, Luigi, Russell getting driver of the day.
I'm
worst call in the world.
I'm still giving it to Russell because he did. He took that cut lap 12 to lap 58.
Yeah, but the tyre wear this formula is different. It's different.
Yeah. But we're still learning. He's learning a car that he barely knows, to be honest. Yeah. I'm not saying he did the world's best drive. I'm calling it a boring win, but I'm still calling
Max definitely drive the day. Andrew?
What about Hamilton? He finished within a second of Leclerc. That's never happened in a Ferrari, has it? I thought I'd probably Verstappen, but I reckon Ollie Beerman finished 7th, maybe.
Yeah,
he started
good
14th.
Call. Yep.
He sort of stayed out of trouble, which is little bit unusual. I know Ocon and Gasly were getting stuck into each other a little bit.
Yes.
So
yeah,
there was a few good drives through, and Bortoleto I think finished in the points for Audi. So
he did.
Pretty good for them for their
on debut.
For Audi.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, they are a genuine new team. I mean, because they've got a new engine.
Well, with their own engine, so that's
with their. It's not like, I know they've got the same people infrastructure as Sauber, but it's still really impressive.
Yep, I agree.
Well, you think that Red Bull have built their own new engine with the Ford?
That's right.
And Audi.
Yes.
Obviously, Aston Martin are struggling with the Honda.
Yeah.
And then everyone else has pretty much got Mercedes. Like even Alpine have ditched the Renault and gone to Mercedes. So Mercedes or Ferrari.
Can you imagine how angry Alonso is in that team?
He can't say anything.
No.
But he currently can't drive the car for more than 25 laps because it vibrates so much.
Yeah. Gosh.
I mean, shall we put money on the line now? Will Alonso say GP2 engine? Will he say it this year?
He hasn't had a lot of success with Honda. That's for sure.
He hasn't. Yeah.
No. And they've probably put it in his contract. He's not allowed to say anything like that. I'm sure that's in his contract. I'll put money on it that he's not allowed to diss Honda, because Honda would have been really nervous with the guy.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So
yeah.
A couple of other comments. Williams, they were in no man's land.
Yeah.
Where were they? What were they? They were like, I don't know. I don't even know where they finished, but it was nothing. Hollow.
But I think they're still on the back foot, aren't they?
And that blue of their car is really gross.
They missed the shakedown
it's
in
not
Barcelona.
Nice. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, so no. I think they're still a fair bit behind.
Yeah.
But they've got a Mercedes engine. And Alpine and Williams, Alpine more so, they switched to 26 Focus pretty much the start of 25, and they've come out with a dog, and and Williams have come out with a slightly better dog, but maybe it's not respecting dogs, to be honest.
Gosh,
it's Briatore. They've got to get rid of Briatore. I mean,
yeah. Well, what's Williams' fault? What's Williams' excuse? James Vowles.
Yeah,
he was like the up and coming team principal.
Yeah, he's been groomed to take over Mercedes, pretty much.
Yeah, well, he's taken them to nowhere.
It's race 1. Let's watch and see. Yeah. What else is there? A couple of comments I was going to check was, I think on that 45, we're going into the boring stage. We're trying to make the boring part interesting.
Yeah.
And they announced, sort of Mercedes made an announcement to the world, but I think to their drivers saying, okay, we're going to the end, as in they were going to go from lap 45 to 58.
Yeah, good on you.
And they'd already done 33 laps. So, like you said, Rosie, you're saying the tyres were not so relevant this year?
I think they're different to the ground effect wear. I think every car, every team will have different wear on their tyres because of the way that they're doing their deployment. No, that's right.
So, I mean, that's going to affect things a little bit.
And I'm going to sound really smart here, but don't question me further. But, some things that I've read saying that, ground effect tyre wear is totally, completely different to mechanical tyre wear. Mechanical tyre ground effect. Yeah. So it's it's a mechanical gripping of the tyres to the track, not a ground effect. So the tyre wear is going to be totally different, which I'm looking forward to. I think that brings in a bit of variation between all the team's performance, and when they pit, it's going to have different strategies for pitting and stuff, which I think brings in some interest to the race and what happens during the race.
I think you might be onto something, because remember during the race, McLaren said to Lando, "Can you do 25 laps on this?"
Yes,
I think he was on old mediums, and his words were, he was pretty much telling them where to go. I don't even think I can do 10. Right?
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So it depends on how they're using their aero and their battery and all of that. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to that bit. I still think there's a way to go for all the teams to understand how their cars are working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was an okay. I give this race like a C, ABC. I give it a C plus.
Yeah.
Just because of those first 15 laps. But other than that, it was a bit underwhelming for me.
But it was an awesome 15 laps, though, you have to admit. Like, it was really cool to see them repassing.
It was really
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I think it would have been a lot better if Max had started higher up. I think he would have been in that mix as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, McLarens were a bit off the pace, but I think if we can get those guys qualifying up near the front, and I think even if Hadjar had hung around, obviously he retired, which is a pity, but he would have been up near them as well.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna make a comment that's gonna sound pretty full on. We had the first 4, obviously Russell, Antonelli, Leclerc, and Hamilton. 16 seconds was Hamilton's gap to Russell. Then we've got the leading midfield driver, Lando Norris, in the McLaren, 51 seconds back.
Wow!
Do you understand? That's massive.
Yes,
I mean,
huge.
It just, are we looking at maybe McLaren is not in that top tier? I mean, let's not forget. Okay, race one, I get it, but McLaren were winning. They won this race last year, and McLaren definitely had some bad races last year. It's not like they were good on all the tracks. So my call out is that's a big gap. That's a really big gap,
nearly, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not sure if the McLaren is one of the top teams. I think it's a top 3. As in, I think it's Red Bull. I think it's Red Bull not starting from the back of the grid. Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and I think McLaren is going to be the leader of the midfield, and an easy leader, to be honest.
Do you think one of the midfield teams will get up to the top tier, like
not only because McLaren is there?
Bulls?
No, while McLaren is there, they're the king of the midfield.
Okay.
You know, after McLaren, it's probably Haas, Racing Bulls, and Audi. I think they're probably the next 3, and then the other 3 teams. I think it's the other 3 teams: Williams, maybe 4.
Yeah,
Williams, Alpine, Cadillac, and Aston Martin. They're struggling.
No, you left Audi out. Did you say Audi? Audi,
I think
he said Audi in the.
Oh, you did.
Audi, Haas, and Racing Bulls seem to be the best of the rest.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's the thing, Louis. You just hope that the races to come don't have such huge gaps throughout the field. Like you'd want to see it a little bit closer. And I think that's more about learning the cars, the setups, and the deployment thing. I think will get better as we have more race conditions.
Yeah.
For the teams to figure out and the drivers to figure out how to drive these cars.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. I'm really hoping that we'll get a better view when we see that Red Bull up there, when we see Piastri up there, because Piastri seems more with it than Norris so far.
Norris, he does, yes.
And we'll have better visibility on that, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So we got a break now and then China? Is that the way it goes? Or do we have China and then a break?
You call 1 week a break? And I think it is a break. I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah.
No, China's next weekend.
Weeks. Is it really, Andrew?
Yep. And then a break for Japan.
Okay. All right. So it's China and then a week off and then Japan.
We want these
6
cars.
weeks off.
Yeah, probably. And for everyone to know, we want these Formula One teams to get all their gremlins sorted out because we want the Japanese Grand Prix to be the race of the year.
We want that to be a banger. That's right.
Yeah, because the 3 of us in this podcast and some of our other friends are actually going to Japan Grand Prix. So we're not going there to watch a boring race. Is what I mean.
That's right.
Yeah.
Get with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Andrew, for being a special guest. And if you'd like to do China, let us know. It'll be fun.
All right. Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.